This day in Philly sports history is proud to be a part of the Clashing Conferences Sports Fan Network, where passionate fans make powerful content. Check out theclashingconferences.com and join the squad today. What's up, everyone? Welcome to this day in Philly sports history for June 19th, 2025. I'm your host, Jim Montgomery. Happy Juneteenth to everyone out there. This is the anniversary and celebration of the day that the last slaves in Galveston, Texas were informed of the Emancipation Proclamation. So it's a day to remember and reflect on the fight for freedom, as well as celebrate the resilience, as well as the contributions that African Americans have given to this country over the years. So happy Juneteenth. Go out today, do something productive, and make sure you're reflecting and remembering what this day actually means, other than just a day off of work. One quick extra housekeeping note for today. We'll have more housekeeping later. The lighting seems to be better today. I was watching the replay yesterday, and it was like, oh my goodness! Like, I had my light up three brightness levels too much. So we're back. It seems like we're normal today. It seems like the Phillies are back. That was a good bounce back win yesterday. 4-2, a solid win. Ranger was just Ranger, outstanding. Went 7 innings, gave up the 1 run, had 8 strikeouts. Stott, 3-run shot. Maybe, just maybe, he went 2 for 3. He's getting out of his funk. Alec Boehm continues to hit well, going 3 for 4. Nick Castellanos made his return to the lineup and hit cleanup. Went 2 for 5 in the field. And, of course, he got tested last play of the game. And as soon as they hit it, I said, how ironic is this? And was talking with some guys on Twitter back and forth about it. There was no shot that Nick Castellanos was going to miss that ball. So solid catch for him. Orion Kerkering looked good. And going to have to focus on a negative thing here. Can we get a closer? I know everybody keeps talking about we need a bullpen piece, we need this, we need that. But Strahm seems to be battling something right now. Kerkering got a save the other day, but has struggled. It seems like whoever they put in there, Romano, nobody wants to be the closer. So can we bring in a closer for this team? I think with the guys that are in the bullpen now, they might be good. But somebody needs to come in with that killer mentality to be the closer on this team. And I don't know who it is. Maybe they can trade for someone. Maybe they can train Taijuan Walker. I don't know. That's something that would fit. But as of right now, it doesn't seem anybody wants to be the closer. But Phillies did win 4-2 over the Marlins. They've taken 2 out of 3 so far. They play the 4th game today. They look to win that series. Christopher Sanchez on the mound today before a huge weekend series versus the Mutts. Now, I was listening and was in the gym yesterday. The afternoon show on WIP had Larry Anderson on. Larry Anderson said this is just another 3-game series in 162. You can't get too high or too low. Obviously, you want to win them. I don't know, man. This is a huge series because last year, the Phillies were rolling until that series against the Mets in London. Obviously, we know what happened in the playoffs. We know what happened already earlier this year. To me, maybe the players do keep it even keeled, but to me, no. This is a big series. But we'll have more on that because we got to take care of the fish today. Stay focused. Finish this series out with a win. And let's move on to the Mutts, who have been struggling. So you're catching them at a good time right now if you're going to make up some ground or increase your lead over them, depending on how things play out today. All right, some quick housekeeping notes. Be sure to follow me on social media, Jimbo_Mont on Twitter and TikTok. On Instagram, at PhillyJimbo. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, Jimbo_Mont, and continue to spread the word as we grow this. We want to see highlights, clips, articles, things like that on about whatever we're talking about that day. Go to my social media, including Facebook and LinkedIn, to see that. Obviously, Monday through Friday. Tomorrow will be our last show of the week. We spend Fridays with AI. Looking forward to that. Probably the biggest Friday with AI we've had since we've done that. So be sure to listen to that tomorrow. But as we've been sort of re-imaging, I don't want to say rebranding because we're not necessarily rebranding, but as we've been making some tweaks and enhancements and improvements, obviously you see the camera set up as it's probably the clearest you've ever seen me. So things are, it's a process. So appreciate your patience. But some new segments debut this week, and our final new segment for the week is Throwback Thursday. And what we're going to do is Throwback Thursday, we're going to talk about games, players, teams, moments, just random things. Just kind of like a potpourri of Philly sports. And I want to kind of keep the focus on this, either players or teams. We did a couple months ago, the forgotten teams in Philly sports history. And teams and eras and things that we tend to forget or overlook. So that's going to be the focus of Throwback Thursday, kind of a catch-all for Philly sports. And Throwback Thursday is brought to you by Beach Caddy. Go to beachcaddy.app. Let them take the stress out of your Jersey Shore trip. If you're in Avalon, Sea Isle, Ocean City, Wildwood, Stone Harbor, let them do your moving in, moving out. Get the beach cart, the best beach carts at the Jersey Shore. Use the promo code Jimbo and let Beach Caddy take the stress out of your Jersey Shore vacation. Move in, move out, and cart rental. Promo code Jimbo for 10% off of your order. So Throwback Thursday today. We're going to take a look at the 2010 Phillies. And I chose the 2010 Phillies basically because during that run, from 2007 to 2011, Phillies won the NL East 5 straight times. But the 2010 team seems to be the one that's often overlooked. Everybody talks about 07 because that was the first. They ran down the Mets. Jimmy won the MVP. He predicted that they were the team to beat. 2008, they ended up winning it. We talk about 2009 a lot because they got back to the World Series against the Yankees. And, of course, we talk about 2011 because that was when things changed. They should have done better that year. Franchise record for wins. And then Ryan Howard tears his ACL. But nobody really talks that much about the 2010 Phillies. Now, there are moments that people talk about. But as a whole, we tend to overlook, of the 5 division winners, that's the team we tend to overlook the most. Big changes that season after the World Series loss. They traded Cliff Lee to the Mariners, got traded for Roy Halladay. Placido Polanco ended up being your everyday third baseman. Welcome back, Placido. And we always talk about Roy Halladay's perfect game. But people seem to forget about that team, it was sort of a precursor to what was going to happen in 2011. They struggled most of May offensively that year. 46 out of 47 innings, they were scoreless. They got swept out up in Boston where they were shut out 3 straight times. And then they got hot, and then they ended up just running away with the thing. That was the year they traded for Roy Oswalt at the deadline, setting up the 4 aces. Ended up the season 97-65. Swept the Reds in the first round. Roy Halladay with a no-hitter, first ever playoff game, game 1. But then they ran into the Giants, who were just a hot team at the time, 4-2, and a lot of those offensive struggles came up in the NLCS. The 4 games they lost, they only averaged 2.5 runs, and that's just not going to get it done. But Roy Halladay won the Cy Young, and often, again, overlooked was the 97 wins at the time was the second most wins in franchise history. They were tied with the 93 Phillies for most wins. So that's our Throwback Thursday, the 2010 Phils. One of those teams, again, we always talk about 07 to 09 because of the progression and should have repeated if you ask me, but I'll get into that another time. And then the disappointment of 2011. But 2010 was equally as disappointing because that was a team that if they were anywhere consistent in the playoffs offensively, they could have gone back and won the World Series. The Giants ended up winning that year. So that is our Throwback Thursday, brought to you by Beach Caddy. Let them take the stress out of your Jersey Shore vacation. Use the promo code Jimbo to take 10% off of your move in, move out, as well as your beach cart rental. All right. Yesterday's trivia question. We talked a lot about Charles Barkley and the trade to the Phoenix Suns. I asked you, who were the 3 players that the Sixers received in return? Everybody got the first 2, no problem. Jeff Hornacek, who was miserable that he was even sent here in the first place. Tim Perry, who at the time was kind of in the downward part of his career. Temple's own Tim Perry. Andrew Lang was the other one, a journeyman center who I believe was hurt during that trade. Ended up playing a couple years here in Philly. So the Sixers trade Charles Barkley to the Phoenix Suns for Jeff Hornacek, Tim Perry, and Andrew Lang. Thank you to everybody who attempted to reach out. Nobody ever gets Lang. Lang's like the 5th guy in the Fab Five. That Ray Jackson. Nobody ever remembers Andrew Lang. Want to show off your Philly pride without saying a word? Philly Goat has you covered. From tees, hoodies, shoes, and hats, their gear screams Philly louder than an Eagles fan at the vet. Whether you're tailgating in South Philly or trying to flex down the Jersey Shore, do it in style. Hit up phillygoat.com, use the promo code Jim Montgomery, and get 10% off your order. Philly Goat, because being Philly ain't a choice, it's a way of life. Go Birds! All right, we have some Sixers news. And with the draft coming up next week, Ace Bailey was scheduled for, I guess, a workout and a meeting with the Sixers tomorrow. He canceled that. So I don't know if that is something he and his agent are doing to not get the Sixers to pick him. I don't know if maybe he knows he's probably going to go before the Sixers even pick. But something, it just doesn't seem right. And to me, honestly, good riddance. I don't want Ace Bailey. If I had my choice, I want VJ Edgecombe. That, to me, is the most polished player. He's the guy that's the most NBA ready. I think Ace Bailey, there's questions about his maturity. He can't create a shot. He's not as good defensively as VJ Edgecombe. And the fact that Edgecombe has international experience against some of these same players that he'll be playing in the NBA, I think he's the way to go. Obviously, if one of the top 2 guys fall to you, that's a different thing. I would not trade up. My stance on that has not changed, because what are you going to give up? You don't want to move unless you're getting somebody to take the Paul George contract. You're not moving up. But speaking of that, I heard some rumors, and again, at this point, everybody has a rumor. And part of my Discord channel is live, so go to the first link in the description. Come over and do some Philly sports talk. But I'm in a Discord chat with some of the guys from the Clashing Conferences network, and there's a dude on there who's a Knicks fan, and every day it's a different rumor. And it's funny because you're seeing so many different rumors, so take this with a grain of salt. However, sign me up 10,000 times out of 10,000 for this one. There's a rumor that if the Sixers and Jazz were in talks about swapping picks, I believe the Jazz picked 6th, but somehow they're going to take, I forget how it was. Somehow they were going to, I guess, take some salary. The Sixers were going to take some salary from them and ultimately be able to unload Paul George to the Jazz. Yes, please. Yes, please. I don't care what you have to do. If you can get out of that contract, all of a sudden, and don't take on dumb contracts that you're going to just have on your roster for 3 years. Bring on some expiring contracts and maybe just suck it up for a year. Gives Joe a chance to get healthy, Jarrett McCain a chance to get healthy, see what whoever you end up drafting, gives them a chance to get acclimated. So I don't know if it's true, but yeah, if you can get me rid of Paul George, sign me up. So we'll find out soon enough. The NBA Finals may end tonight, or we'll have a Game 7 this weekend. Either way, the NBA Draft is next week, and I cannot wait. All right, June 20th. And we're going to talk about that 2010 Phillies team. The offense wasn't struggling on this day as they led the Twins 9-4. Ryan Howard, Jason Worth, Raul Ibanez, Wilson Valdez, and Ross Glode all hit homers for the Phillies on this day. However, it was the bullpen. Brad Lidge blew a save. Danny Baez gave up and took the L in the 10th inning, or the 11th inning, as they lose to the Twins 13-10, blowing a 9-4 lead in the 9th inning. Cole Hamels was outstanding. They wasted his solid outing. And at the time, this was the record for most home runs by both teams at Citizens Bank Park. That was later broken. We talked about this a couple weeks ago in 2019 against the Diamondbacks. But on this day in 2010, the Phillies lose to the Twins 13-10 in 11 innings after leading 9-4, blowing it in the 9th, tying it up in the 10th, and then not being able to get it done in the 11th. But the offense was outstanding. Ibanez, Wilson Valdez, Ross Glode, remember him? Ryan Howard, and Jason Worth all homered as the Phils lose. But the big story in Philly sports on this day happened in 1984. And on this day in 1984, the Philadelphia 76ers selected Charles Barkley out of Auburn with the number 5 overall pick. Now, the backstory to this is hilarious. And if you're watching this on social media, you can just tell by looking at Barkley's face. He didn't want to go to Philly because apparently at the time, the ownership told him they could only offer him a 1-year, $75,000 contract based on their salary cap mess that they were in. So Barkley, being Barkley, tried to sabotage his draft status with the Sixers. So he went on, he had an in-person meeting where they were going to weigh him in and I guess work him out. He went on a 48-hour eating binge prior to his meeting, went to Denny's, had some Grand Slam breakfasts, ate a couple steaks, mashed potatoes, KFC, all kinds of stuff. Basically gained like 30 pounds. And in 2 days, just gorging himself in food. Came into that meeting weighing 302. Harold Katz was pissed, but they still drafted him. They were able to make some moves and work it out. So they did offer him a 4-year, $2 million contract. Now, then he was pissed off that he wasn't getting playing time and went to Moses Malone, who was sort of the father figure a father figure for Charles Barkley, and said, why am I not getting any playing time? He was like, Moses told him, you're fat and you're lazy. If you want to get some playing time, stick with me. I'll get you on a plan. And eventually he said, get down to 240. Or he said, get down to 280. Get down to 270. And like each time he did it, and all of a sudden his playing time started going up and everything. So Barkley has credited Moses Malone with sort of mentoring him and getting his career. But the Sixers did pick Charles Barkley on this day in 1984, which was a stacked NBA draft. More on that in a minute. But he did try to sabotage it. Sixers chose him anyway. And he said once he got down to 250, that seemed to be his go-to weight. He did say Moses did an experiment. He was like, get down to 240. And then Charles said he didn't feel as strong and powerful at 240 as he did 250. And Moses is like, okay, 250 is your playing weight. And Charles said he's tried for his whole career, he stayed around 250, thanks in part to Moses Malone. So it all worked out at the end, but that's probably the most typical Charles Barkley story of all time, gorging himself to try to get the Sixers to not draft him. But thankfully for the Sixers, they ended up drafting him anyway. All right, back to that 1984 draft and today's trivia question. Including Charles Barkley, there were 5 Naismith Hall of Famers in that draft class. Who were the other 4? Hit me up on the Discord channel. First link in the description. The Back to the Future voice and text line, 267-495-8531. Get that. Anything else Philly sports related off of your chest. Hit me up on any of my social media. But who are the other 4 Naismith Hall of Famers out of that 1984 draft class? I think one is completely obvious. The other 2 should be relatively easy. If anybody gets the 4th, you are certainly a hoophead. Finally today, our greatest individual season in Philly sports history tournament. We are kicking off the second round, but first, our first round matchup out of the Eagles region. Donovan McNabb from 2004 beat LaShawn McCoy, surprisingly, from 2013 with 83% of the vote. Dominated. So Donovan, number 5, moves on as we start the second round today. We're going to start with a great matchup in the Phillies region. It's a 3-6 matchup, a battle of MVP seasons. You have the number 3 seed, Ryan Howard, 2006 MVP. He was an all-star, led the league with 58 homers, 149 RBI, hit .313. A lot of people forget he hit for a good average that year, added 25 doubles. Phillies as a team went 85-77, second place in the NL East, ended up 3 games back of, I believe it was the Padres in the wild card standings. He is taking on the number 6 seed, Mike Schmidt from 1986. In 86, Mike Schmidt led the National League with 37 homers, 119 RBI, also led the NL in slugging and OPS, won the Gold Glove, made an All-Star, hit .290. Mike wasn't really known for his average, but hit .290 in 1986, added 29 doubles. The team did finish 86-75, but 21 and a half games back of the New York Mets. So there's your matchup. Who do you got? If I had to go, I got to go Ryan on this, but what do you say? Number 3, Ryan Howard from 2006. Number 6, Mike Schmidt from 1986. Vote on the Discord, social media, Back to the Future voice and text line. These matchups are going to start getting harder now. We're in the second round. So whose Philly season was better? Ryan Howard in 2006, Mike Schmidt in 1986. Get the vote in. And a special shout out to Lotwin. Get your 3D custom hype chains. Go to lotwin.com. Use the promo code TCCPOD for 10% off of your order. These things are great. Get hype with Lotwin. Don't forget the trivia either. Who are the other 4 Hall of Famers in the 1984 draft behind Charles Barkley, or other than Charles Barkley, I should say. On this day in 1984, Sixers select Charles Barkley with the 5th overall pick in the NBA draft up in MSG. Phillies and Twins set a Citizens Bank Park record for home runs in a game as the Phillies blow a 9-4 ninth inning lead, losing 13-10 in 11 innings to the Twins. All right, tomorrow we spent Fridays with AI, and it's probably the biggest Fridays with AI we've had since we've had this podcast and started the Fridays with AI. So stay tuned for that. Throwback Thursday, putting the 2010 Phillies on your radar. One of the most overlooked teams during the stretch run, 97-win team. Gives me an idea. We might go, might have some fun with overlooked teams, but we'll see how that goes. Happy Juneteenth, everyone. Remember, reflect, celebrate, and do something worthwhile today. This has been This Day in Philly Sports History for June 19th, 2025. I'm Jim Montgomery. Go have yourselves a Thursday, and until next time, I'll see you when I see you.